Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be talking about should the Tampa Bay Buccaneers potentially trade for Jets defensive lineman Quinnen Williams. And for those of you who were following me back around the 2019 NFL draft, in my opinion, I'd thought that Quinnen Williams was the best defensive player going into that 2019 NFL draft. Now, he was picked number 3 overall by the Jets. The Bucs got Devin White at number 5, which has turned out great so far, but now the Buccaneers potentially have a chance to get Quinnen Williams again, as the Jets are having a literal fire sale of their entire team. Now, the Buccaneers have already dipped into that Jets fire sale a little bit, and I will mention that here later on in this video, but they have the chance to do it again and acquire the number 3 overall pick back in the 2019 NFL draft. So, what should the Buccaneers do? Well, first let's talk about some of the cons as to why this trade should not happen. The first con that I want to talk about is the high trade price tag on Quinnen Williams right now. It is being rumored that the Jets would want a first-round draft pick for Quinnen Williams, which makes sense. The guy was a number 3 overall pick. Yeah, they would want a pretty high draft pick to get him off the team. But in my opinion, a first-round draft pick, that is an insanely high price tag. We've seen teams throw caution to the wind and just give up their first-round draft picks for players in recent memory, like the Houston Texans, like the Los Angeles Rams, and it hasn't worked out very well for those guys. In fact, the players that they traded for, they end up trading away later on because they can't pay the bloated contracts, and I imagine both those teams would rather have players on rookie contracts rather than having these bloated contracts that weighs them down salary cap wise, and they can't build up a roster in a balanced way. So overall, that could be potentially what happens with the Buccaneers. Now, I will talk about some contract details later on, but overall, at the end of the day, it is a high price tag, and you don't want to be giving up too many high value draft picks because you still need to have some foundation for your future, regardless of how much you are in a win now mode. I had talked about this during the Jamal Adams trade rumors when those were going around, but it still applies here as well. First round trade price, depending on where you do pick in the first round, it would be a little bit of a softer blow, but regardless, it's a first round draft pick. That stings no matter where you are picking. That is an insanely high price tag. The next point I want to make is that the Buccaneers may be making too many trades, may be shaking up things too much on the roster. Now, they just traded with the Jets literally a few days ago. They traded for Rob Gronkowski, and overall it does get to a point where it's like, okay, maybe this team might be making a few too many trades. Again, we've seen teams like the Texans and like the Rams go out there and make multiple trades, and in the end, a lot of them fall flat, and it just really messes up the makeup and the dynamic of the team, and overall it can lead to bad situations if you make too many trades. And you don't want to give up too many assets either in a draft. You need to have draft picks so you can have a future for your team. So overall, there is such a thing as making too many trades, and there is such a thing as giving up too many assets and jeopardizing your future for a win-now type situation. So overall, the Buccaneers do need to be careful to not make too many trades because you need to have some platform for your future. The next point I want to make is that the Buccaneers just made a trade with the New York Jets for Steve McClendon. I don't know if while they were making that trade, there may have been some minor discussions for Quinnen Williams. To be quite honest, a scenario could have potentially happened where Jason Light said, hey, New York Jets, I hear you guys are trying to get rid of Quinnen Williams. We'll take him off your hands. The Jets said, we want to, well, is there anybody else you're interested in trading away? And then they said, Steve McClendon, and they said, okay, cool, and then they orchestrated a deal for him. That could have been potentially something that happened, but just in terms of logistical thinking and rational thinking, the Bucs just made a trade with the New York Jets less than a week ago. I figured that that's probably all the business that they would conduct. They're probably not going to be making a second trade just a few days later. I don't think it's out of the realm of it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it seems more likelier than not in terms of the fact that they just traded for Steve McClendon. I highly doubt that they would try and orchestrate another trade here just after a few days. It would have been something that they would have discussed during that first trade, and if anything, it would have been heavily talked about already and then moved on and shelved for that Steve McClendon type trade. So yeah, overall, just thinking about it logistically like that, they just traded with the Jets. I highly doubt that they would try and do that again, but again, not out of the realm of possibility. The next thing I want to mention here is that it's going to be an expensive extension for Quinnen Williams in a couple of years. Now, right now, Quinnen Williams is still on his rookie contract, and I will mention that here in the pros point later on, but right now as it stands, the Buccaneers have a lot of free agents that they have got to sign coming up here soon. Chris Godwin, Shaq, Barrett, Levante David, Vita Vea here in the next year or two, among others. There's a lot of expensive contracts that the Buccaneers are going to have to pay for coming up here soon in the next offseason or two. Tacking a guy like Quinnen Williams' contract is going to bog down the salary cap quite a bit, and it could result in the Buccaneers losing out on one of the guys that I just mentioned, if not another guy in the future. And that's just something that, you have to consider. You can't just keep on trading for these guys and, they're on their rookie contracts. But then in the next year or two, it's like, well, now we got to pay everybody. So what are we going to do? So overall, you have to take financials into consideration as well. And financially speaking, for the next 2 years, yes, it would be fine, but after that, you're going to have to give him a big contract. You're going to have to give a lot of other players big contracts as well. So you have to take that into consideration of, okay, if we trade for Quinnen Williams, if we give up a first-round draft pick for Quinnen Williams, how is this going to affect our long-term future? Because essentially that means that you just basically, you gave up a first-round draft pick for Quinnen Williams, so now you have to figure out the financials for that. That's just how it is. So it could bog down the salary cap. It could result in the Buccaneers losing some talent at other positions, and that could be a negative for sure. And the last point I want to make here in terms of why this trade should or potentially could not happen is he has had a slow start to his career so far up to this point. I think that things could work out with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense with Todd Bowles. I think that, things could be very well for Quinnen Williams, but the point still stands that so far up to this point in his career, Quinnen Williams has been not a third overall pick type of player. He's been good, don't get me wrong. I think that he's been a fine defensive lineman, but he really isn't that just absolute game wrecker yet that a lot of people, including myself, thought he was going to be coming out of the NFL draft. So far up to this point, he's been just fine, and he hasn't been playing up to a third overall pick type of standard. So that could be something to consider heavily is, okay, if we trade for this guy, what kind of guy are we going to be getting? It really is just a toss-up at this point. Things could go really well or things could go really bad, and if they go really bad, you wasted a first-round draft pick on a guy who you're really just not even going to be playing that ton and not even going to be re-signing after a couple of years. So yeah, that's definitely something you've got to consider is that so far up to this point, he's been overall all right. So what does that mean for him if he comes to your team? Will he just stay all right, or will he somehow magically become better in a different system? It's possible, but it's something you have to consider. But with that being said, let's move on to the pros as to why this trade could happen. The first pro I want to mention is that the Buccaneers do need a replacement for Suh. I just mentioned all the free agents that the Buccaneers have to re-sign here in the next year or two, and Suh is one of them. His contract runs out after this season. And you know what? Quinnen Williams would be a pretty good Suh replacement. Now, I just mentioned that so far up to this point, he has been all right in his career, but I feel like in the right system, he could flourish. He could do some pretty good things. And I think that he is, pound for pound, size for size, a perfect replacement for Suh. And pairing him up with Vita Vea would be one heck of a combo. And you don't have to pay him that much money. He's still going to be on his rookie contract. And yeah, overall, I feel like that he would be a very solid replacement for Suh. You could let Suh go into free agency, plug Quinnen Williams in not just this year, but also plug him in for next year as well. And then boom, you have your Suh replacement already on hand. That's something that could be pretty enticing for the Buccaneers, because quite frankly, if you think about what the Buccaneers would be spending that first round draft pick on, it highly is likely that it could just be a Suh replacement. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But yeah, you could just trade your first round draft pick, get a Suh replacement right away, and then you already have him on hand, and he's already had some experience working in Todd Bowles' defense defense for the remainder of this season. So, yeah, Sue replacement might not be a bad idea in the future of this upcoming season. The next point I want to make is that, yes, he is still on his rookie contract for the next 2 years. He still has that 5th-year option as well, but it's just nice to have a guy at a relatively cheap contract. There will be some concerns with his contract later on after the next couple of years, but it's good in terms of the Brady years, right? For this year and next year, it's perfect. He's still going to be on his rookie contract for the next 2 years. That lines up perfectly with Tom Brady's contract, and overall the money just works out. And if things don't work out, okay, ship him away and, just don't re-sign him, and then he'll go into free agency. You did waste a first-round draft pick, but you added some immediate help, and you made things a little bit easier for the defense for the 2 years that you had Tom Brady. That's something that could be a little enticing. The next point I want to make is, I just mentioned it earlier, he could flourish in Todd Bowles' defense. I think that Todd Bowles is a wizard with defensive linemen. Casey Rogers, shout out to him, because so far this year, in the past couple of years, our defensive line has looked very solid. Vita Vea is playing like one of the better nose tackles in the NFL. Ndamukong Suh is having a overall really career resurgence with the Buccaneers. I do fully believe that. He is ending his career on some high notes. He's been playing great the past couple of years. And then even William Golston is having a career resurgence. He has been insanely underrated in the run game. You could add Quinnen Williams to that mix right now, and I think that not just for the remainder of this year, but for next season as well, he would do better than how he's been doing with the New York Jets. I just think that the New York Jets, quite frankly, are a very dysfunctional organization right now, but going to a team with solidarity in the coaching staff and on that defensive line like the Buccaneers could do wonders for Quinnen Williams. Having that mentorship from Vita Vea, William Golston, and Suh for the remainder of this season, and quite honestly, potentially next season as well. You could re-sign Suh and then still just have Quinnen Williams on his rookie contract and then just have an insane depth squad of 4 defensive linemen. That's something that could happen. It would do wonders for Quinnen Williams, and I think that he would flourish in a Todd Bowles system. I do fully believe that. The next point I want to make is that, quite frankly, Vita Vea plus Quinnen Williams, that would equal money. Not for this season, obviously, because Vita Vea is dealing with his injuries, but for next season, if you decide to move on from Ndamukong Suh, you decide to keep Quinnen Williams, Vita Vea plus Quinnen Williams, wrap it up, boys, because that is just amazing. That would be an amazing pairing of defensive linemen. That could potentially be one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. The Bucs already have one of the best defensive lines in the NFL, but just, it would be insane. And if the Buccaneers did decide to, re-sign Suh, Quinnen Williams still on his rookie contract, maybe you move on from Will Golston. If your defensive line is Quinnen Williams, Vita Vea, and Ndamukong Suh, geez, holy crap. Like, that would be insane for next season. And again, it would line up perfectly for what's going on with Tom Brady and his overall contract, because this year he would be an immediate help. Next year, depending on how things go in the offseason, it would just look insane. So yeah, overall, it would just be an absolutely money combination. It would be one of the better defensive lines in football, even without Suh. If it was just William Golston, Vita Vea, and Quinnen Williams, that's great for next season. If you decide to keep Suh and maybe move on from William Golston, you have Quinnen Williams, Suh, and Vita Vea. That's even more insane. And if you decide to keep all 4, that's just ludicrous. Like, that would just be playing Madden at that point. So overall, yeah, it would be absolutely insane for next season in terms of the defensive line makeup and the overall formations and things like that. But guys, the last point I want to make here is that in the immediate sense, for right now, it could be immediate replacement for Vita Vea, and he could help Brady in year 2. I'd already mentioned the Brady in year 2 stuff, but Vita Vea is out for the year, and the Buccaneers did trade for Steve McClendon, but you could always continue to get more help with a guy like Quinnen Williams plugging and playing in right away. Now, in my opinion, the formation would probably go William Golston at defensive end. You would probably move Suh to the inside at nose tackle, and then you would play Quinnen Williams at the defensive end position. Or you could just switch it and have William Golston at defensive end, Quinnen Williams at nose tackle, and Suh at the defensive end position. I think either way, you're doing a pretty good job. Like I'd said earlier, Steve McClendon has already been traded for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and, that's a thing. He's going to be there. But that would be an improvement. That would be an overall improvement for what the Buccaneers have right now. at that nose tackle position, and that's kind of undisputable at this point. So overall, guys, that's all the points for the cons and pros as to why a trade for Quinnen Williams should or should not happen. At the end of the day, what do I think is going to happen? Well, guys, I think that at the end of the day, a trade for Quinnen Williams probably is not going to happen. I really don't think it is. I think that, the Buccaneers have already been making trades. They just traded for Steve McClendon, and based on all of the points and thoughts that I've had on this right now, I just don't think it's going to happen. The price tag is too high. The Buccaneers right now as it stands don't really need a guy like Quinnen Williams, and overall, it's just unnecessary. So, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what your thoughts about this entire situation down in the comment section below. Why do you think the Buccaneers should or should not trade for Quinnen Williams? Give me your thoughts. But, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Hope y'all enjoyed.